Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Kitab Sharh Ajaib al-Qalb, The Marvels of the Heart. This is book 21 of Ihya Ulumuddin, the revival of the religious sciences, of the Islamic sciences, translated by Walter James Skilly. We have reached chapter 4, and this is page 21. An exposition of the special properties of the heart of man. Know that God has bestowed on all animals, other than man, all of these things that we have mentioned. For animals have appetence and anger, and the senses, both outer and inner. Thus the sheep sees the wolf with her eye, and knows in her heart its enmity, and so flees from it. That is an inner perception. In reality, it might be associated with instinct also. We will know, or we will now mention that which peculiarly characterizes the heart of the man, and because of which he has been given great honor and is qualified to draw near to God, the Exalted. This special characteristic has its basis in knowledge and will. By knowledge is meant that knowledge which deals with the things of this world and the world to come, and with intellectual realities, حقائق عقلية. Rational truths, maybe. حقائق عقلية. These things are beyond the objects of sense perception, and animals do not share with man in them. Nay, rather, knowledge of axioms and universals, العلوم الكلية الضرورية, is a peculiar property of the intellect. Thus, a man judges that a single individual cannot be imagined to be in two places at one time. This is his judgment for every individual, although it is well known that he has passed on all the individuals, goes beyond that which sense has perceived. You generalize without exhausting all the individuals or individual cases or members of any genus. If you understand this in regard to this obvious axiomatic knowledge, it is even more obvious in the rest of the theoretical sciences, النظريات. Now, regarding the will, when a man perceives by his intellect the consequences of an act and the best way to do something, there is aroused with his essential self that a desire for the advantageous way, a desire to exert himself in the means to attain it, and also the will to this end. This differs from the will of appetence and the will power that animals have. Indeed, it's quite the opposite of appetence, for appetence shuns bleeding and cupping, while the intelligent man wants them, seeks them, and freely spends money for them. The appetite inclines to savory foods in time of sickness, while the intelligent man finds within himself that which causes him to abstain from them. It's true, but I think the Arabic text has a little bit more والعاقل يجد في نفسه زاجرا عنها وليس ذلك زاجر الشهوة. Yes, the next sentence has the extra phrase, this abstinence does not come from appetence. Had God created the intellect that gives information regarding the consequences of things, and not created this cause that moves the members to carry out the mandates of the intellect, then the judgment of the intellect would, in reality, be lost. Thus, the heart of man has the special properties of knowledge and will which separate it from the other animals, nay, rather, which separate it from the youth in his original constitution, for this comes to him only with maturity. Not physical maturity per se. When they say in العقل مناط التكليف that one becomes legally responsible from an Islamic perspective based on reason. This is why a person who literally lacks the intelligence to mentally challenged one way or the other is not included. A child is not included. A person who is in a coma is not included. Now, appetence, anger, and external and internal senses exist potentially in youth. Potentially. I think the word potentially is added. It's not really in the original text because you don't say that the senses, for example, exist in the youngster and youth. Potentially, they do exist. So the word potentially in the translation is has been added to the Arabic text and is strong, really. We know very well that youngsters could also be angry, they, etc. But in attaining them, the youth must pass through two stages. In attaining the knowledge, and it's not attaining the it's not attaining really appetence, anger, and the senses, both external and internal. Attaining them ثم الصبي بحصول هذه العلوم not تحصيلها as a reference to appetence, anger, and the external and internal senses. One stage is that his heart must comprehend the knowledge of axioms and first principles. Such as the knowledge of the impossibility of impossible things, استحالة المستحيلات, and the possibility of things manifestly possible, وجواز الجائزات. But at this stage, he has not yet attained to the speculative sciences, save that they have become possible and within easy reach of attainment. His status in relation to knowledge is like that of the writer whose knowledge of writing consists merely in knowing inkstand, pen, and the letters as they are written separately, but not in their combined forms. For such a person is well on the way to writing, but has not as yet achieved it. The second, the second stage is that he shall gain the knowledge or that knowledge which is acquired by experiment and thought, so that is stored up in him, and he can return to it whenever he wills. His status is like that of a man skilled in writing, who, on account of his ability therein, is called a writer, even when he is not actually engaged in writing. This is the highest stage of humanity. But in this stage, there are innumerable degrees of contrast among men in the abundance or paucity of knowledge, in the dignity of knowledge, or its sordidness, and in the way of attaining it. This knowledge comes to some hearts through divine revelation. The the word is ilham, and that would be inspiration. By way of immediate disclosure. Mubada, okay, it's from God to the human being. And for some, it is a thing to be learned and acquired. So disclosure and unveiling, mubada and mukashafa in the first case. And for some, it is to be learned and acquired. Sometimes it is gained quickly and sometimes slowly. In this stage are seen the varying degrees of the learned, the ulama, the wise, the hukama, the prophets, the anbiya, and saints, the awliya. The degrees of advancement in knowledge are unlimited inasmuch as the knowledge of God, praise be to Him, is infinite. The highest rank is that of the Prophet, to whom is revealed all realities. Or most of them, not by a process of acquisition, nor after difficulty, but by divine unveiling in the shortest possible time. In this happiness, man draws near to God, the exalted, in idea, mana, reality and quality, not in respect to place and distance. Now, we should understand that we have the knowledge of God is infinite, and what is revealed to the Prophet, it's not all realities like as if we talk about the infinite knowledge of God is transferred to the Prophet. That should not be the understanding, of course, at all. The levels up to these various degrees are the stages, manazil, reached by those journeying, sa'irin, toward God, the Exalted, and there is no limitation to these stages. Each traveler knows only his own stage to which he has attained on his journey. He knows it, and he knows also those stages that are behind him. He does not know the real nature of that which is just ahead of him, but he may believe in it as he believes in the unseen, even as we believe in prophecy and the prophet, and accept his existence as true, while no one but a prophet knows the real nature of prophecy. And even as the embryo knows not the state of the infant, nor the infant the state of the discerning child. Imam Al-Ghazali, from a different context, the discerning child would be, the age of discernment is 7 years old. And what has been opened up to him of axiomatic knowledge, nor the discerning child the state of the intelligent man البالغ, and when he has acquired of speculative knowledge. So also the intelligent man knows not what attainments of the grace and mercy of God has been revealed to God's saints and prophets. The mercy which God grants to humanity none can withhold. ما يفتح الله للناس من رحمة فلا ممسك لها. This mercy is generously bestowed by reason of the goodness and generosity of God, subhanahu wa ta'ala, who does not begrudge it to anyone. But it only appears in those hearts that are exposed to the gifts of God. The Prophet ﷺ said, verily, your Lord in the days of your generation has gifts. Will you then not expose yourselves to them? إن لربكم في أيام دهركم لنفحات ألا فتعرضوا لها أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. It's hadith muttafaq alayh, agreed upon, narrated by Bukhari and Muslim. But also to expose oneself to these gifts, we talk about knowledge. We don't talk about and really knowledge that is not accessible to everyone, obviously. And for this, there is a need for there's need to cleanse the heart. That's really what, and to cleanse the heart, you can clean the body, of course, your skin. You can use all kinds of soaps and shampoos, and within a couple of minutes, really, you could be clean physically. It doesn't work like this in the heart. You can make a decision, inshallah. One can repent, and but there's a process. You would like now to cleanse. Some people say you are what you eat. Some people say you are what you do. And one's experiences would leave a mark, really, on one's psyche, one's heart. Remember that when people became Muslim, some of them were old enough to have established their own personalities, and but they allowed Islam to shape their persona. So as long as we resist, there is no change of heart, and you need your heart to be wholesome. You need your heart to be clean. You need your heart to be ready for that kind of knowledge. And remember, إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. And we talk about spirituality. So the Prophet ﷺ said, verily your Lord in the days of your generation has gifts. will you then not expose yourselves to them? This exposing oneself to them is done by cleansing and purifying the heart from evil and from the turbidity that comes from a blameworthy character, as will be set forth later. This liberality is that which is referred to in the statement of the Prophet, ﷺ, the hadith of the Prophet. God descends every night to the lowest heaven and says, is there anyone who asks that I may grant him his request? And this is also a hadith muttafaq alayhi, narrated by Al-Bukhari and Muslim and other sources. But once we say Bukhari Muslim, this is the we are mentioning the highest ranking compendia of hadith. But is followed by a statement that it is not a hadith at all. Again, the Prophet ﷺ said, again, this is not a hadith, but that's the text that Imam Al-Ghazali wrote, and I'm just reading it as is. He said, quoting the statement of his Lord, Azza wa Jal, great indeed is the longing of the righteous to meet me, and I long even more to meet them. This is not a hadith, but when we say it's not hadith, in fact, Al-Iraqi, I think, said, لم أجد له أصلا. He could not find, it's not even weak, it's not without any origin. But the meaning itself could, of course, be true. All of this is an indication that the light of knowledge is not veiled from men's hearts by any stinginess or prohibition on the part of the giver, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is far removed from such acts, but rather it is veiled by wickedness, turbidity, and anxiety within the heart. For hearts are like vessels. As long as they are filled with water, air cannot enter them. So the knowledge of the majesty, so the idea is that if the heart is full with goodness, it leaves no room for wickedness, for evil. So the knowledge of the majesty of God, the exalted, cannot enter into the hearts that are occupied with anything apart from Him, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is to this that reference is made in the saying of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the sons of Adam look into the kingdom of heaven, were it not the demons hover over their hearts. لولا أن الشياطين يحومون على قلوب بني آدم. So the sons of Adam would look into the kingdom of heaven, were it not that the demons hover over their hearts. From all of this, it is clear that the special characteristic peculiar to man is knowledge and wisdom, and that the noblest kind of knowledge is the knowledge of God, His attributes, and His deeds. By this comes man's perfection, and in this perfection is his happiness and worthiness to live near the divine majesty and perfection. And to live I would say there must be something better than to live near the divine majesty. To be near. And of course, this is not, of course, a physical state of being. لجوار حضرة الجلال والكمال. The body then is a vehicle for the soul, and the soul is the seat of knowledge. Knowledge is the end destined for man and his special characteristic for which he was created. The horse shares with the donkey the power to carry burdens and is distinguished from it by its own special characteristics of charging and fleeing and beauty of form, and therefore the horse was created for the sake of these special characteristics, the removal of which from it would bring it to the low rank of the donkey. Likewise, man shares in some things with the donkey and the horse, and differs from them in others, which are his own special characteristics. These distinguishing characteristics are among the qualities of the angels who are drawn near to God, the Lord of the worlds. Man has a rank between the beasts and the angels. Man, in that he takes nourishment and reproduces, is a plant, and in that he has sense perceptions and moves by his own free will, he is an animal. Can we attribute free will to animals? I don't think so. Even free will is problematic when we talk about the human being, where the end result of action is morally right or morally wrong. Then, in general, we talk about free will. So, regarding that which he shares with the animals, he is an animal, and with regard to his figure and his stature, he is like the relief figure on the wall. Relief figure on the wall is like the painted image on the wall. If you simply talk about his image, his stature, it's like the painted image on the wall. So I don't know why they have translated this as the relief figure. But his distinguishing characteristic is his experiential knowledge, ma'rifah, of the real nature of things. Whoever makes use of all his members and powers in such a way as to seek their aid in attaining to knowledge and work is like the angels and is worthy to be joined to them and deserves to be called an angel and a lordly being, Rabbani. Thus God the Exalted has declared by the mouths of the woman who beheld Joseph, Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, this is no mortal, this can be no other than a noble angel. They said, ما هذا بشر إن هذا إلا ملك كريم. But whoever spends his energy in following after bodily pleasures and eats as do the animals is brought down to the low depths of the beasts. So he becomes ignorant as an ox, gluttonous as a hog, greedy as a dog or a cat, malevolent as a camel, vain as a leopard, or sly as a fox. Or he may unite all of these and become a rebellious demon, shaitan married. There is not a single one of the bodily members, nor a single sense perception, but that it helps along the path that leads to God, the Exalted, as will be shown in part in the book of patience and thankfulness. Whoever kitab sabr wa shukr, whoever uses them therein wins the victory, but whoever turns aside therefrom loses and is disappointed. The totality of man's happiness therein lies in making the meeting with God, the Exalted, his aim, the abode of the world, to come his dwelling place. This present world, his temporary stopping, his temporary stopping place. The body his vehicle and its members his servants. منزل والدنيا منزل, almost like a lodge on the way from one place to the other, from one town to the other. When you go to the lodge, when you go to a hotel, a motel, when you are traveling, that's not your ultimate destination, of course. You are on your way. And in fact, the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith uh, compared this world to being in this world like a man who simply rested under the tree for an hour in the shade of a tree. So the perceptive part of man dwells in the heart as a king in the midst of his kingdom. The imaginative faculty, whose seat is in the front of the brain, acts as the master of his couriers. For the reports of sense perceptions, mahsusat, are gathered therein. The faculty of retentive memory, hafida, whose seat is the back of the brain, acts as his storage keeper. The tongue is his interpreter, and the active member of his body are his scribes. The five senses act as his spies, and he makes each one of them responsible in a certain domain. Thus, he sets the eye over the world of colors, hearing over the world of sounds, smell over the world of odors, and so on for the others. These are the bearers of tidings that they collect from their different worlds and transmit to the imaginative faculty, which is like the master of the couriers. The latter, in turn, delivers them to the storage keeper, which is memory. The storage keeper sets them forth before the king, who selects therefrom that which he has need of in managing his kingdom, in completing the journey ahead of him, in subjugating his enemy by whom he is afflicted, and in warding off from himself those who cut off his path. If the king does this, he is successful, happy, and thankful for the blessings of God the Exalted. But if he neglects all of these things, or uses them for the welfare of his enemies, which are appetence, anger, and other transient pleasures, and in the buildings of his path instead of his abode, for this present world is his path through which he must pass, while his own country and his permanent abode is the world to come. Then he is forsaken, wretched, ungrateful for the blessings of God, the Exalted, being one who makes all use of the armies of God, the Exalted, uh, and forsakes the party of God. So he deserves hatred and exile on the day of returning really, and resurrection. May God protect us from such. Ka'b al-Akhbar refer to this example which we have given when he said, I went to Aisha radiallahu anha and I said to her, man's eyes are a guide, his ears a funnel, his tongue an interpreter, his hands wings, his feet couriers, and the heart is his king. If the king enjoys good health, so also do his armies. She said, thus have I heard the Messenger of God sallallahu alaihi wasallam speak. This is not an authentic hadith, of course. This is it's obvious, but at least officially, Imam Iraqi, in his takhrij, in his verification, said that this is not authentic hadith. Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anh, also in illustrating the heart of man, said, verily God, the Exalted, in his earth has vessels, and they are the hearts of men. Those most beloved by him, the Exalted, are the gentlest, the clearest, and the most robust. Then he explained, in terms of chain of narrators, attributing this to Ali bin Abi Talib is also weak. It's not hadith, and anyhow. But the meaning is not, the meaning, the hearts being vessels, of course. Then he explains, saying, the most robust in religion, the clearest in certainty, and the gentlest to the brethren. This is a reference to the statement of God the Exalted. أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم, hard against the unbelievers and merciful among themselves. And also the verse, his light is like a niche within which is a lamp. This is the verse of النور. مثل نور كمشكاة فيها مصباح، المصباح في زجاجة، الزجاجة كأنها كوكب دري. Ubay ibn Ka'b said, this means as the light of a believer and his heart. مثل نور المؤمن. Again, there is the statement of God exalted, or like the darkness in a vast deep ocean. أو كظلمات في بحر اللجي. Still, the same context. If one continues all the way, Allah نور السماوات والأرض مثل نور كمشكاة في مصباح, all the way until one reaches in the recitation, أو كظلمات في بحر اللجي يغشاه موج من فوقه موج من فوقه سحاب ظلمات بعضها فوق بعض, which is an illustration of the heart of the hypocrite. Zayd bin Aslam said of the statement of God the Exalted, in a preserved tablet, he said, it is the heart of the believer. Of course, Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz is not the heart of the believer. Sahel said, the heart and the breast are like the throne and the seat. مثل القلب والصدر مثل العرش والكرسي. This is a far-fetched metaphor, but for the human being. These then are the examples of the heart. Next, inshallah, is chapter 5, an exposition summarizing the qualities and similitudes of the heart. بيان وجمع أوصاف القلب وأمثلته. Until then, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.